Good morning, everyone. Greetings from Times Square, New York City. I was staying at a friend's place for the last 10 or 12 days. They came back last night, and so I am now in the hotel in Times Square. Right now, hotels in New York are very cheap. Cheaper than hotels in Asheville, in my little town, because there's too many hotels and no visitors. But New York is back. But still, Friday rush hour traffic, no one has like squished my face onto in the subway yet, so not completely back. It's right now, just like this, the next phase, as opposed to when New York is completely back on a Friday rush hour, it will be like Then when you are shorter than many Americans, it's this that you smell, when they put their hand up holding. It turned cold, about 50 degrees now. So last night, and I didn't bring anything for 50 degrees, so last night in the rain, cold, walked around and around looking something to buy and found this. And of course, umbrella prices also go up, when it rains. So although there are many shops around, those shops that sell souvenirs and sell umbrella, those shops, I've noticed there's never a price tag on anything, which is unusual in the US. So that means, don't buy umbrellas from them when it's raining. So again, I walked and walked in the rain. It was pouring, it's all wet, until I found Staples, which is a store that sells office goods, paper, printer, but I know that it often has umbrellas. So I went in there, finally found a Staples, and found an umbrella that is a standard price, not because it's raining. Then this morning, went out and found McDonald's, which I usually don't go to, and got a coffee. McDonald's, it's generally not good for your health, but it's reliably bad. So when you're in a place that you don't know, at least you know what you're getting yourself into. Also, it seems like it's mid-Manhattan on a Saturday is not awake yet. So the Starbucks around the corner is also not open, which is kind of surprising. But McDonald's is open, and a lot of homeless people are in there. At least one service that they're doing is homeless people, and because it's raining and cold this morning. Anyway, very happy that even though I'm on the road, that you have been patient, and due to the power of technology, we're able to continue this, and most grateful for Claudia and Waiting to translate this into Spanish and Chinese. So maybe Claudia and Waiting, you want to just summarize the nonsense that I've been talking about. It's not Dharma. You don't need to translate everything. just say in Spanish, hola, That summarizes everything I just said. Just noticing this wallpaper works pretty good for for a backdrop. Okay, let's begin with the opening recitations. So Aspiration Bodhicitta recitation followed by Action Bodhicitta recitation, taking refuge in Buddha Dharma Sangha, generating the four immeasurable minds. Then the summary of the seven-limbed puja in one verse. That we will chant on a slower pace. Following that, I'm going to recite prayers to the lineage and also the mandala offering to request for the teachings from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Sama gege bardu longa yisum gewa lago mashi bardu longa yisum gewa lago du derine sunde nema samda samji bardu longa yisum gewa lago Jodan soji chonam la janju bardu dane gyabsuji dage jinsu gebe zonange drola benjir sanje drubro shu sanje jodan sogi chonam la janju bardu dane gyabsuji dage jinsu gebe zonange drola benjir sanje drubro shu sanje jodan soji chonam la janju bardu dane gyabsuji dage jinsu gebe zonange drola benjir sanje drubro shu Kadanyambe Senjen Dam Dewa dang dewen gindan dembra girji Dungyao dang dungyao ki girdan drawa girji Dungyao me pe dewa dang me drawa girji Nering chadang nidang drawa Tangyao la nebra girji Amanang kadang nyampe sen Tamje dewa dang dewen gindan dembra girji Dungyao dang dungyao ki girdan drawa girji Dungyao me pe dewa dang me drawa girji Nering chadang nidang drawa Tangyao la nebra girji Amanang kadang nyampe Sen chen tamje dewa dang dewen gindan dembra girji Dungyao dang dungyao ki girdan drawa girji Dungyao me pe dewa dang me drawa girji Nering chadang nidang drawa Tangyao la nebra girji Jaze wadang jujing shabada Desi yirang kushing sowa ye gewa jungse dagye ji sangpa Tamche sobe jangche jirngo Changchen de le na ro dang marmi da bo ba tu ji den gong ka den chun den sa we la me sha sa ji la ma yi dam jo gyong la so wa de zo da ji jin ji lo ke den ge do me sam ling ge ra pe dong su yong la kya zo me kya wa do je chang pa jin den gong bo sha la du du ta du sang yu gyo le me jin ji lo shi tu je jin ning ge mu pe se ne kya sem tro de du do pra jin ji lo wo jian yu ji ne chang sa pe ma ge sa dong po la ya sen ju ge wo zhen nian pe ma zhong ne shi shu de ko zhong kan zhong mang bu ko de ge ge jie se ta zhong ge jin ji lam ji shi su so gu ru pe ma se de ho ju gi yi gi po dang ne du sun san ji gun ji wo wo ne rang sen chu gu ngon su ton ze ba so we la me shab la so wa de so ji ju bu gi ju su me de Re ra len she nen de gen pa de san che shin de meng te po wa ye dro gu nam da shin la ge wa shu gu zong yong zo la me cho nam la chi nang sang sun den shin ne gen ju da lu long jo nang si yong she la me cho ge ngo de sa du so cho zo wa dang jo jing shao da je se ye rang gu shin so wa ye ge wa zhong se da ge je sa ba tamche sobe changchen chengo guru deva tha kini rana mandala prate jaso semche namgi samba lo ye jita jita chechun tumon tepa ye jogi kolo kordo so just wanted to also say, as we were doing the recitation, if sometimes, you hear me, when we're supposed to say 3 times, I say 2 times, or I say 4 times, Please, you should not think, oh, he knows what he is doing. No, he lost mindfulness, There's too much, I think, of I don't know. It's in a way you can say yes. Certain traditional things says, oh, you should look at the teacher and think, everything the teacher does is for my benefit. Blah blah blah. It's certainly good that we don't walk around finding faults in other people. But at the same time, if we excessively think, oh, everything that teacher does, there's a reason, there's a purpose. It's the first step to a very slippery slope that in the end will harm the teacher, then will harm you. It's not healthy, I think. See, it for what it is, they say, don't find fault. Yes, Jesus said, you only see, like the splinter in someone's eye and not the log in your own. Yes, we always turn things around to look at ourselves. But it's good to see that there is something in the other person's eye. If it can help you to look for the log that is in your eye, but nonetheless there is something in the other person's eye that maybe if you kindly, rather than judgmentally, tell the other person, hey, there is a splinter about to maybe poke your eye, let's remove it. Yeah. So that's important, I think, and to me that's a sensible way to relate to each other. So mainly, if we relate to each other with non-grasping care and kindness and love, we can never go wrong. We don't need fancier, things. At the highest level of attainment, especially according to Gagyu Mahamudra, it is directly related to perceiving the Lama as Buddha. We're talking about the highest level. I would say, at the very least, if you're not on the first Bodhisattva bhumi, I don't think it's possible to genuinely, we might project onto that person all kinds of ideas that we have and say, oh, you are Buddha. I think unless you're at least on the first Bodhisattva Bhumi, that method won't serve you too well. Yeah, at the highest level of practice, again, as I say, we mean like, on the Bodhisattva Bhumis, and in fact, 8, 9, 10 Bhumis. It is said that it is when one truly and ultimately perceives the nature of the Guru's mind as Dharmakaya, which means, not like projecting, but actually seeing as Dharmakaya, which then allows us to see our own mind as Dharmakaya. Yeah, so that is the method in Mahamudra. But premature application of that method will just lead to the compounding of confusions. Yeah, just my opinion for you to consider. So I think one non-technical way of explaining bodhicitta, especially to people who are not yet ready for all the technical definitions, I think you can say, if you want to use non-technical and to communicate the idea to someone else who is asking you, what are you studying? What is this thing every Tuesday, Saturday? You can say the overall topic is learning how to genuinely care for others without fixation or self-grasping. Caring for others is not easy. Not caring for others is worse. So we don't have a choice. So we have to learn how to care for others from the place of non-grasping. So that non-grasping pertains to wisdom, pertains to absolute bodhicitta. Then the caring part pertains to relative bodhicitta. The caring part, it's all the details of love and compassion, and making the resolve to become Buddha. Those are the three elements in relative bodhicitta. The wisdom part is the wisdom of emptiness, the wisdom of selflessness, in all its more and more profound levels to be developed. Yeah, so now Shantideva last time, I believe, we arrived at verse 8 and 9 in the second chapter, and the chapter on confession. Chapter 2 and 3, as I mentioned last time, they go together because it leads up to the generation of bodhicitta. And so chapter 2 and 3, in a way, Shantideva is giving the ceremony. So of course the ceremony itself, if we do it, but we don't understand it and we don't mean it, not useful. At the same time, if we don't have a ceremony, for most of us it's not enough to kind of let this vow kind of be stable. So for that reason, there is a ceremony given to kind of formalize. So chapter 2 and 3 becomes also the basis for later on other people to compose bodhicitta vow ceremonies based on the elements that Shantideva gave in chapter 2 and 3. And then there are, of course, other sources too that describe and prescribe how the bodhicitta generation or the bodhisattva vow, sometimes also called that ceremony, is to be given. So in terms of the ceremony, then two parts. The first part is the ngondo, the foundations for supporting the actual ceremony. The foundation for supporting the actual ceremony is the seven-limbed puja. Within the seven-limbed puja, then you have the actual ceremony of generating bodhicitta. The first of the seven limbs is to pay homage. So according to one way of explaining chapter 2 and 3, the first verse of chapter 2 pertains to paying homage. The second limb is making offerings of all sorts. So we are in the midst of that. So verses 2 to 7, we have seen Shantideva teaching us how to take all the things that are not owned by anyone in particular, basically all the wonders and pleasures that nature affords us. Take all of that and then offer to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So if we use this method, that means Shantideva is also recommending that we let our senses be alive to the beauty that is around us. Look for that beauty, not so much to grasp at, to be attached to, but don't be afraid, to see that which is beautiful that is around us, and then offer that beauty to the objects of refuge. Now, of course, it doesn't just mean, like, oh, I don't live in a place where I can see beautiful nature, so I am not able to offer in this way. It doesn't mean that. Wherever you are, even, like me walking around in Times Square. Again, I don't think we have to take so literally, according to Shantideva, the things that are not owned by anyone. And you don't have to be so literal, walk around going, wait, is that owned by someone or not owned by someone? Can I offer that or can I not offer that, Mainly, whatever our eyes, our nose, our ears experience, that we have a sense of delight, our mind become bright and, we're in a good place. That experience, whether it's out in nature or, if looking at, the display at Macy's, in Times Square, delights you, you offer that. So Kyoba Rinpoche, Jigten Sumgan, that is, Kyoba Rinpoche, in one of these Vajra statements, he says, it is skillful to mentally grasp all the things that is in the world that don't even belong to you, and then offer them. Now you might say, wait, is it better not to encourage this grasping? Why does he say, it's skillful? It is skillful to mentally grasp, things that don't belong to you, or maybe also don't belong to others, or don't belong to anyone in particular, and offer them. Isn't it better just not to grasp and then not to offer? You might have a thought like this. I think Kyoba Rinpoche made this Vajra statement because he understands, how we are addicted and habituated to grasping. So much so that even when we think we're not grasping, on a subtle level, right? You walk past the things that you like, you were repressed. Oh, I should not, but you're repressing, So on a deeper level, some kind of grasping is going on, and it can be deep and subtle, and it can be very hidden. So in this method of skillfully grasping, to me at least, I'm not saying my interpretation is absolutely correct. I'm offering this as a thought. To me, what he's saying is a way to more naturally, not repressed, but just let loose a little bit. And yes, the things that we have habituated to liking, to wanting, to desiring, let it come up, and then in that moment when it has come up, know to let go of it. Not let go with disdain, not let go with guilt, not let go with aggression, but let go with reverence, let go with devotion, and offer it. To me, it's such a gentle way, such an effective way, so that we're not repressing on the one hand. And sometimes, if we don't know how to practice renunciation, it's a very tight and very judgmental, and done out of disdain, right? That's bad, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. You walk around labeling everything as bad, but it's the type of repression, and eventually it'll come back up when the conditions come together. You will suddenly do things that you never thought you would do. That's arising out of some external imposition on you, saying this is not good, this is not good. This method doesn't work so well, I think. So what Shantideva taught here, and then I brought in some of Kyoba Rinpoche's way of talking about this. So this offering of unowned objects, I think, verse 6 to 7, we can learn skillful ways of relating to the things that we like, the things that we desire. Then verse 8 and 9 is the offering of this body. So this body is the basis of all these experiences that we're having. Right? It's the basis for the sensual experiences, experience of the senses, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, on the basis of this body. So now, after teaching the offering of things that we, the objects of our desire, now is teaching the basis of this desire, this body. So the entirety of this body is also offered to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So both subject and object of grasping, in a way you could say. Yeah, the gross subject of grasping is this body. The subtle subject of this grasping, right, is the mind, of course. But this mind doesn't exist independent of this body. So the gross subject, that which is doing the desiring, the gross subject, is the body. So now we offer that as well. Verses 10 to 13 is the offering of basically spa treatment for the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So we'll read these 4 verses together in the interpretation room as well. A bathing chamber excellently fragrant, with even floors of crystal radiant and clear, and graceful pillars shimmering with gems, all hung about with gleaming canopies of pearls. There the blissful Buddhas and their heirs, outbathed with many a precious vase, abrim with water fragrant and delightful, all to frequent strains of melody and song. With cloths of unexampled quality, with spotless perfumed towels I will dry them, and offer splendid scented clothes, well dyed and of surpassing excellence, with different garments light and supple, and 100 beautiful adornments I will grace sublime Samantabhadra, Menjughosha, Lokeshvara, and their kin. And so this is offering a spa to the Buddhas and to the Bodhisattvas. So next time when you want to treat yourself to a spa treatment, or somebody else buys you a spa treatment, don't forget, even as you're enjoying that, don't forget to offer to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, to the great Bodhisattvas. Don't say, oh, this is not allowed. Again, I think here is kind of teaching us, because sometimes, if we go to the spa, I don't know about you guys, but probably we feel like, oh, let's not think about Buddhas, let's not think about Bodhisattvas, because this is so indulgent. So then we bracket aside our life as if, oh, Dharma here, then over here, with a little bit of guilt, a little bit of repression, we go to the spa. If you don't think you should go to the spa, don't go to the spa. If you go to the spa, don't check Buddha and Bodhisattvas at the door, like your clothing. They're not like clothing and shoes you check at the door when you enter the spa. Yeah. if your relationship to the objects of refuge is like that, then it's very superficial. Yeah, so here, if you find yourself in a spa, get over it now. So you enjoy this, but you think this true enjoyment is the bathing of bodies whose resident is bodhicitta. Why Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' bodies here, is treated with such, you can even say sensual, such sensual images. It's talking about, I'm rubbing their body with perfume and towels, Normally you don't find it in Buddhist texts like this. But the emphasis here is because they are embodiments of bodhicitta. So as you enjoy your spa, I would suggest you think, how much bodhicitta do I have? If I can magnify my bodhicitta, then in the spa I can make an offering to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. By the way, McDonald's large latte, it's not bad. Much better than Starbucks. And much cheaper. Only $3.25 for a large latte. A large latte in Starbucks, it's going to cost me $6. So very good that the Starbucks was closed. It's actually not bad. No need to translate nonsense like that. Translation, not bad, this latte. So next time, meaning you have a McDonald's and you have Starbucks, just leave Starbucks alone. Cheaper and better, not so bitter. I've heard that Starbucks deliberately make their coffee bitter because they make their most money not in their plain coffee drinks. They make their most money in their sugared, all kinds of sugar flavors. And so in order for their coffee to still have taste after they put half a pound of sugar, in a cup like this, they have to like even burn their coffee so that you can still taste some coffee. So that much sugar is the #1 killer in the world. Anyway, verses 14 to 19 is the offering of pleasant substances. But before that, so there is the mention, just in case people who don't know these names, at the end of 13, I will grace sublime Samantabhadra, Manjughosha, and Lokeshwara. So these are the three of a group of what's known as the 8 Mahasattvas, the 8 great Bodhisattvas. 3 of them are named here, but here it's talking about the 8 because it says and their kin, and the rest in their group. Anyway, Samantabhadra the Bodhisattva, known for his great vows, great aspirations, great practices. Menjugosha is Manjushri, known for his great wisdom. Lokeshwara is Avalokiteshvara, known for his great compassion. So here you can say Samantabhadra is about great vows, or great aspirations, and great practices. And then Manjugosha, great wisdom, Lokeshwara, great compassion. In the Chinese East Asia tradition, often Kshitigarbha is also identified. And this group of four, Kshitigarbha is said to be great vows, and Samantabhadra is great carrying out of the vows. So the Yuan and Xing in Chinese, Heng, is divided kind of into these two bodhisattvas, the vow, the Yuan, and then the Xing, the Heng, is the carrying out of the practices. So in East Asian Buddhism, China, Korea, Japan, you have the four great bodhisattvas, three of these plus Kshitigarbha. So together we're going to read 14 to 19, which is the continuing in offering the spa. 14 is where it says, I anoint, I rub this fragrance and this sandalwood and things like that. And with a sumptuous fragrance which pervades 1,000 million worlds, I will anoint the bodies of the mighty sages, gleaming bright like burnished gold, refined and cleansed. I place before the mighty sages perfect objects of my worship, glorious flowers like lotus and mandarava, the utpala and other fragrant blossoms, worked and twined in lovely scented garlands. I will offer swelling clouds of frankincense, whose ambient perfume ravishes the mind, and various foods and every kind of drink, all delicacies worthy of the gods. I will offer precious lamps arranged in rows on lotuses of gold, a carpet of sweet flowers scattering upon the level, incense-sprinkled ground. To those whose very nature is compassion, I will give vast palaces resounding with fair praise, all decked with precious pearls and beauteous pendant gems, gleaming jewels that deck the amplitude of space, fair and precious parasols adorned with golden shafts, all bordered round with hem of precious jewels, upright, well proportioned, pleasing to the eye. Again, all this I give to all the Buddhas. So you see all this beautiful description. So to whatever degree I think like the inner aspect of this, to me, what it's saying is like we don't need to kind of like rigidly, tightly, like stay away from beautiful things, good things, and think, oh, the best way to practice Dharma is this way. Here it's saying you work on bodhicitta. The more you embody bodhicitta, the more you can enjoy these beautiful, wonderful things without causing suffering. Because what causes suffering is grasping. It's not things themselves. Now, I think we frequently say that, but then, then we get trapped again, we get hooked again. So again, don't just say, oh, it's not things that causes suffering, it's our grasping, and then we don't work on that grasping part. But it is true nonetheless. Naropa says, like in my way of practicing, I recognize that things don't bind. It's our fixation on things that bind, tie us up tightly. So then Naropa says, give up this grasping. So in terms of like the making of offerings, whatever we can prepare. If you maintain a personal shrine, an altar in your home, take care, to make offerings that are delightful to the senses. There's no point in having a shrine and an altar in your home if you don't, care about it, then because Buddhas and Bodhisattvas don't need you to have statues of them in your house. They're not ghosts, meaning like if you don't offer them things, they will go hungry, They're not like spiritual pets. They don't need that. But if we're going to maintain a practice shrine, a practice altar, take care to make it beautiful offerings, clean offerings, because that brightens our mind. That reminds us of the objects of refuge. verses 20 to 23, it's here, these verses are, you can say, making offerings by way of aspiration. So what that means is that, beyond the things that we can gather together, beyond the things that we have seen, recently, we can also expand it so that, to greater things that we have not experienced yet, but we can sort of think about, and we, by our aspiration, we make them into offerings. And so this is the verses 20 to 23. So we'll read these four together. May a host of other offerings and clouds of ravishing sweet melody that solaces the pain of living beings arise and constantly abide. May rains of flowers and every precious gem fall down in an unceasing stream upon the jewels of sacred Dharma, images and all supports for offering. Just as Manjughosha and the like made offering to all the conquerors, I do likewise to all the Buddhas, our protectors, and to all their Bodhisattva children. To these vast ocean of good qualities I offer praise, a sea of airs and harmonies. May clouds of tuneful eulogy ascend unceasingly before them. And so here you see the word may, that indicates like it's the aspiration. So using your power of your bigness of your heart, in that sense, aspiration, using the bigness of your heart, you magnify these offerings, then you offer your mind. Then the last verse here, to these vast oceans of good qualities I offer praise, a sea of airs and harmonies, music. May clouds of tuneful eulogy ascend unceasingly. Verse 23, that's the offering of speech, verbal offering. So mental offering, verbal offering, physical offerings, all covered up till this point. Manjushri's name, the Bodhisattva of wisdom, is also Manjughosha. Manjughosha is literally means sweet voice. Manjughosha, sweet voice. So his words are sweet and pleasant. But he also carries a flaming sword, okay? If the sweet voice doesn't work, then flaming sword is already raised. 24 and 25, he returns to paying homage. So the order is a little bit different from the usual sevenfold, but again, we don't need to be so rigid about this. But 24 and 25 is back to the first of the seven elements, paying homage, making offerings. So 24 and 25, paying homage again. So together, let's say 24 and 25, to Buddhas of the past, the present, and all future time, and to the Dharma and sublime assembly, with bodies many as the grains of dust upon the earth, I will prostrate and bow. To shrines and all supports of bodhicitta, I bow down. To abbots who transmit the vows, to every learned master, and to all sublime practitioners of Dharma. So in this section, again, of course, the Buddha Dharma Sangha is identified, is highlighted. Then all shrines and all supports. Supports is talking about like Buddha images, paintings, anything that represents the three jewels, you bow down to. Also Dharma texts, those are also supports. So we should not treat these objects, like they are decorations. To abbots who transmit the vows, those who give vows, and to every learned master, and to all sublime practitioners of the Dharma, he says, I now pay homage to. "26 is a verse on taking refuge. So let's read this together. Until the essence of enlightenment is reached, I go for refuge to the Buddhas. Also, I take refuge in the Dharma and in all the host of Bodhisattvas. So here, often in the commentary, the commentators take the opportunity to explain the levels of taking refuge. So this verse here is said to be the Mahayana level of taking refuge. So then what is implied here is there is the Hinayana level and the Mahayana level. First of all, the definition of terms. I want to emphasize that when Hinayana and Mahayana are used in this context, and generally when I use those terms, Hinayana and Mahayana, we are referring to the natural levels, progression of one's path beginning first with Hinayana, meaning focusing on the small. What is the small? The small is the individual. First focusing on the small, first focusing on the individual, first focusing on the limited, which is focusing on oneself. Then from there, it matures and grows into Mahayana, which is focusing on others. So here, when we say Hinayana and Mahayana, it's nothing to do with sectarian labels, nothing to do with this Buddhist tradition in this country or that Buddhist tradition in that country. We're not using the terms in this way. This is important to remember. Whether Hinayana or Mahayana, the same Buddha taught it. Fundamentally, what was taught, no different. The difference is more on the level of the one practicing these teachings. And basically, Buddha gave Dharma teachings, period. But based on our level of maturing, then we can differentiate between, are we primarily focusing on the individual, on ourselves, or have we now matured to the level of focusing on others? In fact, Gilbert Rinpoche, Jigten Sungye, again in his very amazing way of explaining this, generally you can say what he says is the Dharma itself doesn't have lesser, greater. This Dharma itself doesn't have those. Everything Buddha taught was great because everything he taught us is geared towards freedom from confusion. But how individuals understand and digest the teaching, how individuals practice the teachings given, there is when you can say, this is Hinayana, this is Mahayana, this is in-between yana. So this way of understanding, I think, is very helpful because we when we understand it in this way, we're not going to not so likely running around looking for, oh, where is there a greater teaching that I can receive? Oh, where is there a more amazing teaching that I can receive? Oh, where is it a more powerful practice that I can get? How many of us have spent how much of our time running after, chasing after things like this, thinking that, a more powerful method is yet to be discovered, a more powerful teaching is yet to be found. We have wasted so much time running around, hoping to run into something like this. But the way Kyoba Rinpoche talks about what makes something lesser, what makes something greater, is not out there. It's how we mature. So every 20 minutes or so, I have to get up and walk around while the translation is going on. Otherwise, the sensor light is going to turn off when there's no movement. This hotel is very environmentally conscious. So here, let's look at the verse 26, which is said to be the Mahayana level of refuge. So it says, until the essence of enlightenment is reached, I go for refuge to the Buddhas, I take refuge in the Dharma, and in all the host of Bodhisattvas. And so here, right, it means on the Mahayana level of taking refuge, you know that you are taking refuge on the Mahayana level, on the greater vehicle level, when you can entertain the idea, and you are committed to the idea that I will take refuge from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime until I myself become the three jewels, become refuge. Now, most of us have recited something like this in our Dharma practice, in our Dharma texts. But have we really taken refuge in the Mahayana way? I cannot speak for you, but speaking for myself, I can say, probably not. Because forget about, like actually like I will take refuge until I become the refuge, objects of refuge for others. Because for the most part, I will only take refuge when I remember to take refuge. And even when I remember to take refuge, I'm just saying the words. And I'm also, and even on a good day when I am taking refuge, it's often just to take refuge for my own benefit. Because I fear the suffering of samsara. And it's like, oh, I should turn to Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So in a way, you could say there is the pre-yana way of taking refuge, there is the Hinayana way of taking refuge, and there is the Mahayana level of taking refuge. The pre-yana way of taking refuge is like, oh, I think I might have COVID. Oh, Buddhang Sharanam Gacchami, Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, please, please, please help me. Samsara not cooperating with you, then you think of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, because maybe, you have heard about how powerful Buddha, Dharma, Sangha is. Maybe, in any case, you think, it doesn't cost that much or anything at all to just say, oh, I take refuge in Buddha, I take refuge in Dharma, I take refuge in Sangha. Maybe, things will change for the better. Maybe samsara will stink less if I do that. That's the pre-yana taking refuge. This kind of taking a refuge is like rearranging, the deck furniture on the Titanic, that famous Titanic that went down the ocean. You're just rearranging the furniture there to make things look better. It's going down, The limited focus on the individual level of taking refuge is, instead of rearranging the furniture on the Titanic, you start looking for a lifeboat to get on. Because this is going down, The Mahayana level of taking refuge is ensuring, preparing, making sure that everybody have access to this lifeboat, and everybody on this Titanic being able to get on the lifeboat, and together everybody safely depart from this sinking samsara. I had to turn off the sound because the AC kicked on. I say, okay, now let's mess with the temperature. So whether it's Priyana, Hinayana, Mahayana, Refuge, depends on us. No shame, if it is still at Hinayana mostly, or even if it is mostly at Priyana. No shame. This is not to call you out and shame you. No, but rather for you to understand where you are and where you need to get to. And then for the rest of this chapter, from verse 27 to 65, it's the actual confession part, as a ngondro, as a preliminary to receiving, to generating bodhicitta. So let's together read from 27 to 65. Yeah, it's quite a few pages, but we'll read together. To the perfect Buddhas and to Bodhisattvas in all directions where they may reside, to them who are the sovereigns of great mercy, I press my palms together, praying thus, in this and all my other lives, while turning in the round without beginning, blindly I have brought forth evil and incited others to commit the same. Deceived and overmastered by my ignorance, I have taken pleasure in such a sin. And seeing how the blame of it, O great protectors, I confess it earnestly. Whatever I have done against the triple gem, against my parents, teachers, and the rest, through force of my defilements in my body, speech, and mind, all the evil I, a sinner, have committed, all the wicked deeds that cling to me, the frightful things that I have contrived, I openly declare to you, the teachers of the world. It may be that my death will come to me before my evil has been cleansed. How then can I be freed from it? I pray you, quickly grant me your protection. We cannot trust the wanton Lord of Death. The task complete or still to do, he will not wait. In health or sickness, therefore, none of us can trust our fleeting momentary lives, and we must pass away forsaking all. But I, devoid of understanding, have for the sake of friend and foe alike provoked and brought about so many wrongs. But all my foes will cease to be, and all my friends will cease to be, and I will also cease to be, and likewise everything will cease to be. All that I possess and use
It's like the fleeting vision of a dream. It fades into the realms of memory, and fading will be seen no more. And even in the brief course of this present life, so many friends and foes have passed away, because of whom the evils I have done still lie unbearable before me. The thought came never to my mind that I too am a brief and passing thing, and so, through hatred, lust, and ignorance, I have committed many sins. Never halting night or day, my life drains constantly away, and from no other source does increase come. How can there not be death for such as me? There I'll be prostrate upon my bed, and all around my family and friends, but I alone shall be the one to feel the cutting of the thread of life. And when the heralds of the deadly king have gripped me, what help to me will be my friends and kin? For then life's virtue is my one defense, and this, alas, is what I shrugged away. O protectors, I, so little heeding, hardly guess at horror such as this, and for this brief transient existence I have done so many evil things. The day they take him to the scaffold, where they will tear off his limbs, a man is changed, transfigured by his fear. His mouth is dry, his eyes start from his brow. No need to say how stricken I shall be, when overcome and sick with dreadful fear, I am seized by forms so horrible to see, the frightful servants of the Lord of Death. Who can give me safe protection from this horror, from this frightful dread? And then I'll search the four directions, seeking help with panic-stricken eyes. But in those four directions no protection shall I find, and I shall sink into despairing woe. No refuge will there be for me. At such a time, what shall I do? Thus, from this day forward, I take refuge in the Buddhas, guardians of beings, who labor to protect all wanderers, those mighty ones who scatter every fear. And in the Dharma they have realized in their hearts, which drives away the terrors of samsara, and in all the host of Bodhisattvas, likewise I will perfectly take refuge. Gripped by dread, beside myself with anguish, to Samantabhadra I will give myself. My body I myself will give to Manjughosha, gentle and melodious. To him whose deeds of mercy never fail, my Lord Avalokita, I cry out from depths of misery. Protect me now, an evildoer. Now to the noble one Akashagarbha and to Kshittigarbha from my heart I call. To all protectors, great compassionate, I cry to them in search of refuge. To Vajrapani I shall fly, for at the sight of him all vengeful things like Yama's host escape in terror to the four directions. Formerly your words I have transgressed, but having seen these terrors all around, I come to you for refuge praying. Swiftly drive away my fear. For if alarmed by common ailments, I must implement the doctor's words, what need to speak of when I'm constantly brought low by ills like lust and faults 100-fold? And if by one of these alone the dwellers in the world are all thrown down, and if no other remedy exists, no other healing elsewhere to be found, then words of the all-knowing doctor which uproot our every ill. The thought to turn on him deaf ears is abject and contemptible stupidity. Along a small and ordinary cliff, if I must pick my way with special care, what need to speak of that long-lasting chasm, plunging to the depths 1,000 leagues? Today at least I shall not die. So rash to allow myself with words like these, my dissolution and my hour of death will come to me. Of this there is no doubt. Who can give me fearlessness? What sure escape is there from this? It is certain that I'm going to die. So how can I relax my mind at ease? Of life's experience, all seasons past, what's left to me, what now remains? By clinging to what now is here no more, my teacher's precepts I have disobeyed. And when this life is left behind, and with it all my kith and kin, I must set out on strange paths all alone. Why make so much of all of my friends and foes? How instead can I make sure to rid myself of evil, only cause of sorrow? This should be my one concern, my only thought both night and day. The wrongs that I have done, through ignorance, stupidity, all actions evil by their nature, and transgressions of the precepts, fearing all the pains to come, I join my palms and ceaselessly prostrate, and everything I will confess directly in the sight of my protectors. I pray you, guides and guardians of the world, to take me as I am, a sinful man, and all these actions, evil as they are, I promise I will never do again. So, in these verses, these stanzas, Shantideva basically presents what is known as the four powers that are necessary for Buddhist kind of confession to be effective. $84,000 this project to translate the Tibetan Buddhist canon into English has translated the basic sutra where the Buddha taught this, translated into English. It's called the Sutra of the Four Factors, I think. There, the word power isn't used in the sutra, but in the sutra, the Buddha very clearly, succinctly taught what here we call the four powers. So the first is the power of regret. The second is the power of, I call it refuge, but more literally the power of support, or the power of reliance. Then the third is the power of remedy, and the fourth is the power of resolve. So at least in English, easy to remember, these four R's. The power of regret, reliance or refuge, remedy, and resolve. The first and the fourth pertains to past and future. Regret has to do with what has already occurred. Actions, unskillful actions that has already been done, cannot be undone now. What to do? With regards to that, we should be regretful. It's not regret itself as an emotion that is encouraged. As we shall see, what is going on with regret? So sometimes I think we like get stuck, and it's easy to get stuck in regret because it's a very sticky emotion, It's not so much regret itself that is being encouraged. It is that in the arising of regret, we see more clearly the causes and conditions involved in having created suffering, so that we see clearly. So the first one pertains to things that have already occurred, things that we have already done. The fourth power, the power of resolve, has to do with future, going forward. So with regret arising, which then allows us to see more clearly the unskillful, the misdeeds that have been created, the situations that I either directly or indirectly contributed to, that then brought about these undesirable results. Having seen clearly how it is, then you resolve that going forward, I will not contribute directly or indirectly anymore to these causes of suffering. So that's the resolve, which pertains to going forward into the future. Then the other two, right, the power of refuge or reliance and the power of remedy, is what we do now. So in this way, past, present, future. So just to give you like the outline, 28 to 46 is said to be the power of regret. 28 to 46. (47 to 53) is the power of the refuge and support. There, the qualities of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and under Sangha in particular, a group of great Bodhisattvas and their powers are mentioned. 47 to 53. Power of remedy is 54 to, let's see, 54 to 62. to 61, sorry. Yeah, to 61. 62 to 65 is the power of resolve. (62 to 65), the power of resolve. So these are the 4 powers that are covered in Shantideva's way. So now let's see if there are any questions or comments, or you want me to clarify anything or discuss anything, because we should not start the 4 powers. We don't have that much time. But let's see if there's any questions or comments.
Well, I have a question, of course.
Yes, good.
In thinking about attachment and to, lovely things we enjoy, and offering that, it occurs to me that we can get very attached to ideas like doing everything we can to do our part to help with climate change.
Yes.
Pollinator gardens, and we can get all involved and very adamant in our need to make our gardens better, drive Priuses, do all these things. Is it appropriate to offer those things in an effort to cleanse them?
Yes, absolutely. Especially Americans.
Yeah, I mean, we get so
American do-gooders.
Yeah, in many different aspects of problems that we see.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing, but we're asking to purify as opposed to stay fixated.
Yeah.
Basically,
Go back to very beginning. I said, if we want to use simple words to talk about bodhicitta, it's caring without grasping. It's not something that you figure out right at the beginning. It's a process of figuring out how to balance these two. The whole path consists of figuring out how these two can be achieved so that they become non-dual. In some other contexts, I've said, actually, when you look at wisdom, no-brainer. When you look at compassion, loving kindness, you will be heartless not to agree with that. So when these two are separated, duh. So what is the path about? The path is about integrating these two. That's how I feel. From the beginning to the end is integrating these two. And at the beginning, they're separate. Then the whole path consists of how to integrate these two. And then when you are Buddha, these two truly are realized as inseparable and non-dual.
Thank you.
Dr. Lai?
Hold on. I think they need to translate.
There's a question. Laura Herman says, could you repeat, we lost the last part. I am far from having powers of all-knowingness. So you have to tell me what was the last thing you heard so that I know which part you lost. And I have to warn you, even when you tell me which part you have lost, not necessarily I even remember what I just said, but I'll try my best. So Laura, if you can tell me what was the last thing you heard, then I will try to remember what I said from that point on. Laura, are you there? Laura once, Laura twice, Laura 3 times.
It was
oh, good.
After you said you were talking about, yes, especially Americans, and the Judy's question about getting attached to certain outcomes. Your volume has gone down. I have my volume all the way up. Maybe it's on my end. Does anybody else have a problem hearing Dr. Lai? That's my question.
Yeah, I think it's on your end. But anyway, even if it is on your end, I can repeat that. So I said, therefore, the main point I said is go back to at the beginning of this teaching today. I said, in simple words, what we say bodhicitta is, just to really simplify, but getting to the heart of it, is caring without grasping. So that is the whole path. Then in another context, we can say, we often hear about how wisdom and compassion inseparable. We repeat that a lot, but often we don't really get, like, what does that mean to me? What it means is, like, to me, I feel that the whole path, the path from confusion to clarity, from sentient being to Buddha, it's how to integrate these two sides. So it's not that you start off already having these two as non-dual. When you start off, these two are quite separate. Because any reasonable person, when you listen to the wisdom teachings, you will go, yeah, of course that makes sense. And then when you listen to the teachings about love and compassion, you're like, oh yes, of course, it feels so good. The trick is how to integrate these two. And that is essentially what the path consists of. So no need to translate because you already translated. Yeah. So now, Lucrezia, you had a question, Lucrezia?
Yes, thank you. In previous class, I remember that you mentioned how do we know if we are taking refuge the correct way? Oh, I just make a brief comment, I guess, but you said that I understood that you said that things begin to happen, things begin to work out for us. So I'm not clear if I understood well, because so that's, if you could explain a little bit more of how do we know we're taking refuge correctly and the right way, let's say.
There's no right, wrong way per se, but in my explanation today on Priyana refuge, Hinayana refuge, Mahayana refuge, I think that's, kind of seeing, where am I? Not where am I at this point in my practice, more like where am I this moment? Maybe this moment, not even Priyana refuge. You're completely not even thinking of refuge. You think everything is fine. Then
Okay, is everything fine? No. This is the Titanic. It's going to go down, you know. Do I know where the lifeboat is? Am I still spending time rearranging the furniture on the Titanic rather than let's get close to the lifeboat because when it goes down, I need to. So at the very least, that kind of relationship with refuge needs to be there.
Okay, thank you. Enjoy New York.
Dr. Lee, I have a couple of questions that I need to translate from
Yes.
Spanish.
Yeah.
There are two questions related to the same topic, which is like how we manage the relationship with friends, enemies, and family. How can we balance the thought that is irrelevant to have this kind of relationships and not to fall in the extreme of the indifference?
That is the topic to be covered next. Haha, easy answer.
Dr. Lee, I think I have other questions in Spanish too.
Okay, actually, hold on. Let me answer another question in English. Then both of you can translate that. Then we go to that. So there's a question here. If a person adopts vegetarian diet due to compassion for other beings and practice celibacy to attain more equanimity, will his or her spiritual path be elevated and move faster towards bodhicitta? Yes, of course, you know, if we practice, you know, a compassionate diet due to compassion, if we practice, you know, celibacy due to understanding how our mind will be more, you know, less up and down, then of course, you know, now merely abstaining from sexual activity and becoming a vegetarian because you think, you know, makes you more pure, better than other people, that doesn't help in terms of bodhicitta. But if we do it with understanding, with the bodhicitta as motivation, then yes, absolutely. Myself, I would say, you know, you have to choose the battles that you can win. so that in the end you can win the whole war, so to say. If you try to go to battle in areas that you have very, little confidence in winning, it might completely derail your confidence, that then you will lose the whole war. Claudia, go ahead.
Okay, it says, for me, it's difficult to understand the verse from 10 to 13. When you mention, when it's mentioned this type of offerings like a spa, I understand that they are kind of sensorial, and that this kind of situation is not bad, because what it makes us suffer is the attachment to them, and that believing that is a genuine well-being. In the case of the Buddhas, it also has this capacity of enjoy. I have problems trying to understand how a Buddha can enjoy such things. I understand that there is no attachment, but how is actually the posture about this? For us, it is good because it's a way of generosity and to face bodhicitta, but until my point of understanding, it's only metaphoric.
So, practice well, practice diligently. When you become Buddha, you tell me. I have no idea how Buddhas can enjoy this either. Because I'm not Buddha yet. But the important points, your question tells me you already know, as in important point for now. As to what Buddhas enjoy or don't enjoy, beyond my pay grade, as they say. One footnote is that, there are lots of explanations that Buddhists in the past, Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist logic has tried to answer your question. Actually, your question is not so unusual. And if we have all the time in the world, I will try to explain the theory, the philosophy, this and that. But these days, I just feel like, like they say, TMI, too much information. That doesn't really help us in terms of our practice. We are addicted. I am addicted to theories, to ideas, Not very helpful for practice. But the question is definitely, valid. And for centuries, people have asked, and then for centuries, people have tried to explain also, But I think best thing is we take the parts that we can put into practice now, we diligently practice, then when we arrive there, then we will know. What do you think you should share with the Chinese? Some of these are important things also. Sorry, I'm making you work.
Can you hear me, Dr. Lai?
Yes.
I cannot hear the question, so I don't know how to translate.
Okay. Hi. It's okay. Everything's okay. Good. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, good. That's good to know, because then next time I will repeat the question.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, next, Rene?
Hi, Dr. Lai. So I have I like to ask a clarification about the offerings at the beginning of the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like it's teaching us to grasp and let go, but specifically of things that in particular do not hurt us or do not hurt others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think other type of attachments are not we shouldn't mix it with how we work with other kind of attachments, right? Like things we are attached to and are not so harmless, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. So the question, y'all can hear the questions, right? Wei Ting and Claudia? Yeah. So basically here, right? Yes, of course, you know. You look at what Shantideva talks about. He's not talking about, you know, the pleasures of gambling, the pleasures of snorting heroin. Oh, visualize that and offer them, you know. He's not talking about things like that, you know. That is clearly harmful, you know. No. He's talking about more innocent, yeah, so to say, kinds of, you know, pleasure. Yes, yeah. Yeah. With regards to those types of attachment, you know, you have to handle those differently, you know.
Sorry, Dr. Lai, what
Yes.
is the question?
Huh?
What is the question?
A question is, oh, you cannot hear earlier?
I cannot catch it.
The question is basically, you know, what about the types of attachments that is like harmful, you know? Should you like, you know, like think of, you know, grasping them, you know, and then offering them? That's when I say, you know, yeah, if you have like attachment to stealing, attachment to like ruining other people's families by having affairs with their husbands or wives, you know, no. Shantideva is not saying, oh, grasp that, you know. Jigten Sumgun is not saying, oh, grasp that and then offer that, you know. We're talking about more innocent types of attachment. Yeah. There is a couple of questions in English in the chat. Let me read and answer them. So one says, how to take care of children without attachment instead of attachment with great bodhicitta. Oh, yeah. So you can translate the question first. Huh? How to take care of children, our children, without attachment. Huh? oh, so hard, you know. I can only imagine. I don't have children myself. I have 4 godchildren. And every time I think, oh my gosh, these parents are so brave. These parents are so amazing. And I don't have that kind of skill to care for them without attachment, because just being their godfather, I know there's really a lot of attachment. So not easy. Basically, how to? Well, it looks like with the question, it's already clear. You understand the principle. So now what needs to be done is to try, make mistakes, modify, see some mistakes, modify, and then never forget, you know, caring without grasping as the basic principle. And it will take one lifetime, several lifetimes, maybe, to get at the perfect way. So be gentle with yourself. Don't be so harsh on yourself. Understand that this is just the condition that we are in. There's a question: is the quality of grasping practice letting go of desirous things instead of just offering without so much grasping? Hey Linda, can you ask the question again? Restate that for me. Like, you can unmute yourself and maybe easier to just talk it out.
The point is not to develop more grasping and then offer, but just see the grasping.
Yeah, sure. So this is more pertains to what Jigden Sungren said, that it is skillful to take in order to offer. I think there he is. Yeah, it's very subtle points being made there. It's not so much that you develop more grasping. I think he's pointing to how even when you think you don't have grasping, it's actually there. So then, rather than letting it hide in the shadows, let it out in the open, at least with yourself. And then, so in that way, he does say, go gather. It sounds as if he's saying, develop more grasping. And then, of course, no, he's not saying develop more grasping. I think what he's really pointing to is how, even when we think we don't have that grasping to nice things, to good things, you know, they're just hiding in the dark. Let them out of the dark. Then offer. Then, in a way, you could say, what otherwise would stay in the dark and later become a big downfall, now you have dealt with it. Yeah.
So is it like homeopathic?
Yeah.
Use the medicine, or use the
Yeah.
poison.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, so today, now we should do the dedication. So excellent and precious bodhicitta, where it has not arisen, may it arise. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. Changju sem rinpoche, ma jie ba nam jie gyu che, ge ba nyam ba me ba yang, go ne gong du be wor shu. So our next class will be on Tuesday morning or Tuesday evening, depending on where you are. Okay, Tata.
Gracias.
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 Gracias, doctor. Thank you.